Greetings all, praise the King. Speaking of beast force conditions, or beast force conditioning, it's a form of mind control. People base behaviors from thoughts. If someone controls your thoughts, they'll control your actions. The beast, man's monkey rule, is the underlying push towards the state, which is a kind of environment fabricated by the hands of men. This manufacturing is what makes it a component or a result of the beast force. As people, move throughout the earth, live their daily lives, they're reminiscent of this force. Although not consciously. Whereas their actions are determined by the attitude of the beast. Now, what is the mood of the beast today? People are looking to side with the beast. This is what is referred to in the Revelation of St. John the Divine as the worshiping and serving. People worship and serve the beast by sacrificing to the beast. And this is empowering this creature of man. When people, go along with the flow, as they say, what are they doing? They're displaying actions that replicate others. When people are introduced into this world, they look and they see, and then they determine, which way to go. And oftentimes they look towards the beast and they see, what it is that they could do to, as they say, make their lives better. Oftentimes these institutions sell themselves on the motto of making the world a better place. Will define what the world is. Is the world humans, subject to a limitation of humans? Could the animals, the birds, be considered the world? Could plant life be considered the world? They often don't tell you how they're doing it, but they say that that's their goal. We're speaking specifically of the world in the scripture is told about in the scripture. It's also sometimes referred to as mankind. And so this world is moving in a direction towards the beast. And the real goal is the worship servitude of the beast. Subjection to. Although they do not see it in this terms, oftentimes they think man is moving somewhere and they're not sure where, but they seem to like it. They seem to think it's good. This is how the Church of Rome is, is however the world moves is holy. It's how the Church of Rome sees things. Where the confusion is that many of the followers actually don't see it this way. However, if they had moved up into the ranks to, as we say, the top of the tower, then eventually they would come to know it this way, and they'll buy the notion that this is part of the plan. It's based on visual. What do people see? And then how do they perceive it? Now, this is where the environment comes into play. It's based on the environment people are in. It's going to affect their judgment. And this becomes their behavior. So there is an effort to affect people's judgments throughout the planet, probably to the advantage of those conducting the operations. What they're seeking to do, that is those beneficiaries, as we may assume there are, for people don't just move and walk for no reason. What they are seeking, and the results will show, is to lay the groundwork. Those are the conditions. That ends backwards. This way, the world will turn in their interest. People will be pushed in that direction without a manual force. They're looking for automation. They're looking to design a roadway that leads to the beast. This is now where this artificial intelligence comes in, because much of what man has done has been based on psychology, and man seeks to know how others work, and then he can manipulate those actions to benefit himself. So the design is now so where the machines do much of the work of manipulation. this is also safer because now man can, prove himself guiltless in his court of law. The monkeys rule. And so he's wiping his hands, and now he can fool people to thinking that he is God. How are these conditions being laid? You have these device of violence, that man's power has always been generated from the act of violence in one way or another. Now, some of this violence is soft. It's psychological. People perceive that if they make this decision and open door A, the outcome will be better than door B. And for what reason? Normally, it has to do with giving power to the beast. People, if people are in a workforce, and especially if they're working for a large or medium company, a corporation, they're going to do what they think will please their boss. And upwards in the ranks likewise. So ultimately, someone has to please someone somewhere. Even generals in the military, admired as tough. People don't. If you say anything about them, you're weak. Nevertheless, when you examine their daily activities, they're merely carrying out orders. So there's an order. The beast gives the command, and now man is making this machine to do this task. Man can sit behind the screen and hide and push buttons so that the machine can carry out his act of war. Through the generals and the so-called military, they're going to sell this by saying they're protecting you. Has anyone asked, how are they protecting? What have they done that's protected the public recently? Well, they're going to tell you something, but it's not going to be worth it. So they must be doing something, and what they're doing is they're working for the big boy. As these commands are given down the line, it's now forcing people to act, to choose door A or lose their job. It's based on capital. Now the capital is based on, today, fossil fuels, which is death. Causes the entire destruction of the planet that man's not telling us about. Man thinks he has a plan, but his plan is to die, to leave it up to someone else. Or something. So, as the phrase goes, we reap what we sow. We also reap what others sow. And this state that they call the democracy, democratic environment. The democratic environment sets the so-called standard for people. This is acceptable. This is you can dress like such, and it moves people, and it controls people's thoughts. We're less safe, no doubt. And yet, some are safer, so they think. Greetings, all praising the King. Continuing on our discussion into conditioning, laying the groundwork for the environment of the planet, at least concerning human species. And in a critical component to this process is capital. This could be considered one form of conditioning, using this instrument as a tool. We should all know how this works. Capital provides for some security, at least so it seems. When a person possesses capital, then they can purchase land in this rule called the monopoly law. This is man's greatest tool because it is based on deceit. We know that man relies on the lie more than any other in his bag. You know, what is the foundation? Is nothing. It's free floating. You know, it shifts and changes to adapt to not the current environment, yet the one to come. You know how the computer's telling you to upgrade, you know, the software is outdated. It's trying to say that if you press this button and agree with these terms and conditions, it will make your life easier. The problem becomes when all the other people do the same. So if, let's say, you have a job to do, and you're one of many people that do the same job. And normally, you do it, you know, in a room with a chair and a desk with all the other people. Now you've designed a new chair. It's gonna tilt you forward, yeah. And because you've also designed a tilting desk, now you are more productive than those around you, because you've had two mechanisms now that give you an advantage. Yeah. So what happens is you get promoted, right? Because you're more productive. This is what the man seeks: productivity. Most of the decisions, the tools that are used, you know, to fasten the armor are done so for the result of increasing productivity. What happens when all the people around you, that work with you, go out and get one of these? Maybe they make it, maybe they buy it, maybe you're selling them now. You quit the company, and now you're selling these things to the people in the company who are now all of a sudden more productive. So what it is, in the capital-controlled monopoly rule, man relies on competition. Man long time decided that when he has two people working against each other on the same job, he gets more done. So he sought, to play each one off one another. Just as when they were building the railroad system in the United States, they were using two distinct groups between the railroad companies, the Irish and Chinese. And the idea was that, the Irish always were looking to outwork the Chinese, and the Chinese were looking to outwork the Irish. And you can see who gained the benefits from this. So you pit people against each other, and you get more as a result. Now, these are the conditions that have been laid. With the technological advancements that sell themselves on convenience. If you get this app, then your life will be more convenient. It's going to do something for you, that previously you had to do for yourself. Well, then the people around you get the app. It's how the microchip is being sold. Right now, the selling point is you'll need this device to adapt to the future. The artificial intelligence, you'll have to keep up with it. And you'll never keep up with artificial intelligence. It's like trying to please Satan. So now the groundwork is being laid. As we discussed, using this automation, proving man to be guiltless, so it seems on the surface, and using capital as a tool for incentivization to keep people moving in that direction. Yeah. See what happens. It's also built up industries, because as more chairs and desks were in demand, there was a new industry that came up out of it. Now, being industrial in itself is not, it's not the problem. The problem is, with industrialization comes the destruction of the planet. With the goals that man has, the natural earth is abused. The basis, the real basis of any economy is the earth. Capital only functions as a temporal
solution, let's say. It's not a solution.
But nevertheless, to man, it appears to be one. We'll use this tool to assist in the function of trade. And this is logical. It would appear that this would be the only way of doing things. Yet, even from history, we know that the real inhabitants had traded with those that voyaged to this land in wampum in the 17th century, which was like a seashell. And it was the British or somebody that claimed to be connected to the British royalty that decided to flood the market with these seashells to dilute the value and cause inflation, which in effect just diminished the quality of the state, because it was a government, not until the Revolutionary War, actually close to 15 years afterwards, did the British actually take control. Originally, the land that I stand on, called the United States, was set up as a religious government. Not until these individuals got involved did it become this corrupt state.
So it's pretty simple, how money is used to keep people moving
And doing things for others, taking command. People profile, so the psychology of each individual is calculated, and those individuals are put into positions which will benefit those monkeys that develop this system. Some of these individuals will move up the ranks. Those individuals are the type that know how to keep a secret. Within each structure of this capital-based economy, you have these rules that are keeping people in a certain position. Otherwise, what will be the outcome? Is they will lose their jobs. When people are proved to be able to keep secrets, then they move up in the ranks.
Eventually they become what the Babylonian calls professionals. Now, when you break the word down, profess is to put on an act. It's to claim something. It doesn't necessarily mean it's true, but you're selling, you're pushing something, an agenda. You're professing progress. There's progress if I push this. These are the individuals that function as the middle layer, the shield, to protect,
The ruling world class from those impoverished sufferers. Traditionally in history, man didn't have the satellites to watch every moment of every person on the earth at any time. The devices to program people's brains with propaganda, the nukes that could blow up the earth 10 times. Man was less protected. And so, there was a real threat of what would be called a revolution, a real revolution, not a feminist revolution. This was when mobs of people would attack those in power because they knew how they were being ripped off. It's very unlikely that this could happen today in the same way, unless a military, or perhaps many militaries intervene. And you would need someone to get the access to the nuclear weapons. So if you've got like a pedophile with the football, then you might have some kind of issue like how they try to display the guy in the Matrix trying to unplug the artificial intelligence. So you'll need really people to be on the same. You need some people that are going to be able to become free. When they do, they'll be able to be honest, and then they'll know they're part of something that has destroyed the whole Earth, and going to Mars is not really going to happen. So it's gonna be rough. We need a greater intervention from something higher than man, than human beings. And how shall we invoke this other than through prayer, fasting, sacrifice? Capital's dead. They're going now to this new digital one world currency. Here the pedophile's in Japan, and he's not only touching slave children, he's setting up a system to sell shitcoin. You know how it is. They come in as the anarchists. Look, anything being projected over the internet, mainstream, has nothing to do with freedom. They're attempting to place you into further bondage. You see the people that think they scored big on shitcoin. They can't even go out and where can you spend the shitcoin? But nevertheless, they got these people on the hook. Now they can try to sell them any digital currency. These people really think the digital currency is free of rule, control. And it's odd because you would think the people that would be engaging in these kinds of practices would have more knowledge. Like for myself, hating computers, yet having to require some knowledge to protect oneself against the monkey fingers. And so, anyway, these people don't get it. They just think that they think it's hunky-dory. It's because of what they're seeing on the screen, the incentivization. They're hoping for a future when children are molested in public. Some people say whatever they want, but as we move into the future, and this becomes reality, I hope they will not deny this truth. It's one thing to deny the truth when it's not revealed, yet when the truth has been revealed, it is a sin to turn away. The other thing, this morning, to add to this discussion, is how this rule is pushed through the judicial system. You could call it court conditioning. But basically, there's so many ways that the Babylonian moves people in that direction. They can have a legislation passed so that those so-called leaders get together and they draft a bill that will benefit the monkeys, or they can have a ruling, what they call it, when they'll have an actual incident between two parties. One of them could be the state, and they have the so-called intermediary, the judge, in the middle, and make a decision that will benefit the monkey. This is setting what they call a precedent. Therefore, in the courts now, they're going to use this as a guideline in their ruling. Roe versus Wade. It was a precedent. They were really looking to promote pornography. So they used a woman in this case with abortion so that they could, what they say, legalize pornography by separating it and not calling it prostitution, even though the Greek word of pornography is prostitution. But they weren't willing to have that conversation in public. So in a sneaky way, they were able to pass the pornography and permit the pornography. Today, as they look to fully legalize prostitution, because when you think about it, when people are going to jail for the things they're going to jail for, and these guys are out there molesting, even forcing themselves on children, not just adults, and of course paying for adults on Craigslist, not to give that website a bad name, but as an example, prostitution's rampant, and so they're putting people in jail for like a small amount of herb, and yet they're gang raping women, throwing money on them, ejaculating on them, and so they're feeling like a little bit guilty. If they get the monkey to scream, all right, then they're gonna feel less guilty, and that's the goal for them. There's something called the spirit, and it comes upon all man. And man, although the spirit is given to those that are worthy in abundance through wisdom, man is given the spirit as a guide of conscience. And when man decides to do wrong, man begins to hate the spirit. It's a blasphemy, shall never be forgiven.